I think it's always good to bear in mind when we're thinking about PDF. It was originally conceived of as an interchange enabler. It would bridge different platforms, but PDF is at its root a document description language. I'm sorry. I'm about
Hey,
to make a mistake here. I hope I'll be forgiven, but yeah, Philip was saying page description language. Um, much as DVI is a page description language, and anyone who's ever parsed DVI knows how um, lacking in large contextual features it is. PDF can be structured with comments, but it's not essentially a way of conveying that sort of information. Uh, HTML, as it relates to SGML, the notion is that we would structure our documents by interleaving within the content, the characters themselves, some sort of markup that would provide a context and give meaning to essentially to the words, the stream of letters. And I think EPUB gets to do that, but PDF has built-in limitations. It was not directed toward that end. And PDF was a boon to the publishing world, and people like me who were working professionally there. At the same time, I don't think PDF in and of itself is a solution for accessibility. Um, when we start with, say, a LaTeX document, we have a prayer that we might create something that can be used not only to present a page, but also can be used to create something that will provide information to who knows who, including, say, visually impaired person or whatever. And this is where my emphasis on best practices for document preparation comes into the picture, because people who prepare documents are myriad, they're legion. And the fact that so many of us don't have an appreciation of the sort of accessibility issues that are present for other people. We have the privilege by being able to ignore the disabled or to ignore how we are disabling people by preparing the sorts of documents that we do. So I'm always looking for a way to give assistance to people in preparing documents that are very, very worthy, let's call it that, valuable, because not only do they provide information to, say, the sighted or people who are going to be reading a book, but also people who will want to access the document in other ways.
My recollection of PDF, which is also in part based upon my experience working in the printing house of Cambridge University Press, is that it's a boon for printing on paper. So in the early days, or actually in the very early days, you had something called a litho stone, and litho means stone. It was a stone with special properties, and grease and water don't mix, and that allows you to print without a raised surface because the grease attracts the ink and the water repels it, something like that. And then you started to have photographic processes for putting an image for litho printing onto an aluminium plate. So you make a negative, and then you'd burn that negative onto a sensitized aluminium plate, and then you develop the aluminium plate, and parts of it attracted ink and part of it repelled ink, and you put the sheet of aluminium into a cylinder, and the cylinder revolved, and you had this device that you had one device that spread ink onto the cylinder and another device that took it off, and so you only got ink where you wanted. But you had to have this piece of paper to begin with that you then created a film from, and then you, and so forth. And PDF allowed you to go straight to plate. I said all this because PDF allows you to go straight from plate. You can get these things like laser printers, but they produce a printing plate. And that's a tremendous boon in a high volume printing process, Printworks. In particular, you've reduced a large amount of the uncertainty and a large amount of the labor, and it becomes easier to keep the printing machines running all the time, which is of course a good thing to do if they're expensive. So PDF was designed for the print industry, and it happened that you could get PDF files that you could see on your computer, and computers got to a point now where you didn't even have to print them to read them. So that was